Okay.
Sorry, I'll stay out of your way. Sorry. Here, I can start over. No, it's totally okay, it's my fault. I spat out my crap, I'm sorry.
Whatever you need. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call this special call meeting of the Bedford County Public School Board to order for June 28th, 2022. Ms. Johnson, would you please read the roll?
Mrs. Kirby,
Here.
Mr. Hill,
Here.
Mr. Daniels,
Here.
Mrs. Hairston, here, Mr. Holbrook,
Here.
Dr. Mealy, Mr. Nelms.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Ms. Hairston?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. As everyone knows, Dr. Mealy is absent today, unavailable to attend, and she wanted me to just share with everyone that she's been at UVA with her husband as well as their son. And her son has had surgery, which resulted in a great deal of complication for him. And unfortunately, they had to return back to the hospital with their son, and they are still there today. She's asking that everyone please say a prayer for her son and for her family. So I would ask each board member if you would do that for Dr. Mealy and her son. Thank you.
Thank you. You can consider it done. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
I have a motion from Mr. Hill. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Nelms. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we're going to open up this portion for the public hearing. The public hearing portion of tonight's agenda is limited to 40 minutes. Speakers are asked to state their name and voting district. The school board is here to listen to your comments, but will not engage or respond to speakers during this 40-minute period. This portion of the meeting is designated for public comments regarding the potential sale agreement of the Edmond Street Park to the town of Bedford only. Please remember that this is a public meeting and we expect all speakers to refrain from foul, abusive, or hateful language. Mr. Edwards will serve as timekeeper for individual speakers with a ringing bell indicating a person has 30 seconds remaining, and a second bell will ring indicating the person's 4 minutes have expired. Mr. Edwards will also serve as our cumulative 40-minute timekeeper. When Mr. Edwards' 40-minute timer bell rings, please discontinue speaking and allow the next person in line to come to the podium. Should you be unable to finish your comments, please send or give them to Mrs. Johnson and she'll give them to board members. Please do not adjust the microphone as it has been adjusted for optimum audio quality. And as of now, we have no one signed up to speak. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, anyone here would like to speak? Barring having speakers, I will close the public hearing portion of tonight's meeting. Moving on to item 3.01, revisions to the fiscal year 23 budget. Dr. Bergen?
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair. So board members, we are just thrilled to come back and talk to you tonight about revisions to the budget, which really are just to the good. Everything that we had previously discussed with you and hoped to accomplish in the budget, we're still able to accomplish. Most importantly, our compensation study that we spent so much time on this last year and wanting to be able to go back and compensate our most experienced employees for the years they did not have a pay increase during the recession and the years that followed. That's still in this budget. So our most experienced teachers are going to receive compensation and restoration steps for the years that they have devoted their lives to this county and did not have those pay increases, as well as our custodians, our bus drivers, and our nutrition workers. But even better, because of the increase in funding that we have now realized through the state budget, we're also able to add teacher assistants to that list, which we weren't able to do. So that's one of the revisions, is we're going even one better and adding teacher assistants. We're able to do this because the funding from the state is one of the best education budgets we've seen in all my time as administrator. Richmond really delivered on providing the funding needed, not just in the operating budget, but there's also good funding that has come through in the CIP. So the administration has met with the Budget and Finance Committee. I'd like to thank the members of the Budget and Finance Committee for their time. We've reviewed these changes with them in detail. We've also met with the Facilities Committee, and we've had conversation about the increase in CIP, which is not on the agenda tonight, but related. You've had the materials in advance, so you could review what the increases were and to the good, where the funding is coming from and how we intend to spend it. There really aren't other major changes to the budget, but Mr. Hagler has a worksheet that he's ready to detail for you and go through it, high-level overview, and then we'll entertain any questions you may have. Mr. Hagler?
All right. Well, I thought we'd go down through the worksheet and just explain those. There was narrative along with the worksheet that went out to the board members. And Chris Sexton has put that up on the screen for those in attendance. The first, which Dr. Bergen spoke to, was an increase in state funding over the House version. This is not an increase over last year, it's an increase over what the House version, which was the least amount of the three that we had. We had the governor's, the House, and the Senate, so we built our initial one off the House, and so that's 2.1 million more. Overall, year over year, for the operating fund, almost 6.2 million more from the state. So when Dr. Bergen says one of the best budgets from the state we've seen, that's quite an increase. Most of that is going towards the compensation, and that was the on average 5% to the SOQ positions, which was in the original budget. That's still in there. So that is the increase in the state appropriation. And there was a lot, they actually reforecast the sales tax, where there was an uptick on that, even from what the governor proposed up until the time they passed. They reforecast the revenue on sales tax, so there was a uptick on that. That helped us out too. So any questions on that first line item from the state? That is only the operating fund. I'll speak to another increase after we get done with the operating fund from the state on top of that. Medicaid reimbursement. We started our Medicaid reimbursement and program up again about 1.5 years ago. And I was forecasting 500,000 maybe that we would be able to bring in. But until I actually saw a report saying what our year totals were, I was not comfortable budgeting any revenue. We did receive our cost report for year ending 21. It takes a while for all that data to get done. I think it was $398,000. The money actually came into this year, so I actually received it already. So I built in a conservative $300,000 for next year, and if we continue to do that well, another $100,000 maybe next year we can bring in. But I just built in some of that Medicaid money because I'm pretty sure it's going to be a recurring stream, and I had zero budgeted in for revenue originally. We don't need to add anything to expenses. These are things that we're already doing that we just get reimbursed for. So very positive result there and an accomplishment. And Sarah Staten headed that up, and a lot of work to get that money in. A lot of work. So the next one was, I think we had already spoken to. This was not a reduction from our overall budget, but from our ask from the county. We were asking for more over last year. And so they weren't able to fund all that. They did fund the $500,000 to the CIP program, school maintenance program and that will build up also for reversion. But this was money that was going into the operating fund. Okay, the one string attached to all the money from the state, a positive for employees, is that there is, you have to sign on to give a bonus in December. A $1,000 bonus to SOQ level positions. Since we can't go, you're an SOQ to one teacher and you're not, and we just include everybody. So any full-time employee on our payroll as of December that we're gonna pay will also receive a $1,000 bonus in their December paycheck. So anybody against that one? Okay. That's a good thing, but it did take some money to do that. We are receiving in that 2.1 million from the state revenue, about 900,000 is for that bonus. So they didn't give us all of it. It's only for SOQ, we had to make up the rest. And so the total is 1.6 million to do that bonus. As Dr. Bergen mentioned, When we went through and made these changes and worked with the finance committee, we felt like we could go one more deep on restoring steps that were frozen for employees during the recession years. And so estimated cost on that is about $103,000, so we added that back in. So with restoration, teachers, nutrition workers, bus drivers, paraprofessionals are all going to be restored their steps this year, which really leaves clerical workers, other support, which is IT technicians, nurses, OTPTs, and administration is all that we have left after that. So that was very good news and very encouraging that we could get that done. So also recommendation is to reduce the county transfer to us by $200,000 and move that over to the maintenance reserve. That increases the amount that would be going into the maintenance reserve to $700,000. The $500,000, they were giving us another $200,000. So that would be money available to spend on projects, but also gets us closer to the reversion gap in the future. So that's us kind of making a move to go ahead and put more money aside for reversion in the future, but also the uptick of being able to spend that money on projects in the short term. So that shows as a $200,000 reduction to the operating fund. It's just shifted down to the maintenance. We are recommending one reduction of a central office staff position in this revised budget. And there's savings there. And if you look at that, that really helped get that paraprofessional thing, you know, it's almost a wash there. So, and so there's one reduction to an FTE at the central office there. Also, our Title IV grant, I think the board passed that grant at the last meeting. We had revised and amended that one. I think we sent a memo out on that, where we're gonna move the Title IV. Some of the Title IV grant was paying for IDS support, Intervention Design Specialist, 2 of them. We're gonna add 2 more to that Title IV grant to do that. We were using the money for other purposes that we're not gonna use that for anymore. And so I'm able to save $60,000 on local money and shift that over to federal, and able to save money there in balancing the budget. That was a $60,000 savings on the expense side. Reduction of textbook fund transfer. Originally, I had $200,000 being transferred out of the operating over to textbook for future adoptions. We're recommending to reduce that only to a $100,000 transfer this year. Now, I looked at the scenario and looking out years ahead, we were able to pay for some stuff this year on the operating. And so the textbook fund is will be in good shape for the next 5, 6, 7 years. We still need to go up each year by $150,000 and probably get the local transfer to the textbook fund up to a $400,000 to $500,000 contribution. But this is a first step in moving in that direction. And we're good for the next 5 to 6 years. But we still did probably next year another $100,000 and keep on putting some of that. So we just didn't need to go up to the full 200 this year. So we just did 100 this year. DEQ Electric Bus Grant. So this was a supplemental appropriation in the current year for our electric buses. The actual transfer is going to be that we're going to pay Sunny Merriman for the electric bus the full amount, and then I'm going to do a reimbursement to DEQ, and then they're going to give me the money. So the money's going to flow through us to Sunny Merriman. So I need to recognize that as revenue and expense. Well, we did a supplemental this year. We have not received the bus yet. So I just built it in next year's budget because I'm assuming I'm going to get the bus before the end of next year sometime. So instead of having to do a supplemental sometime next year, that transaction's going to happen. I just built it into the budget. We're hoping to get that at any time. I believe the charging stations are just about complete down at the bus garage. So hopefully we'll get those, and hopefully Dr. Dewis and somebody from transportation can give board members a ride in that if we can schedule something. Federal Security Grant. This has been an ongoing grant that we've had for 3 years. We do need to spend it down next year. So I think it was about $350,000. There's about $155 left to spend. I originally thought there'd be about 30. We were trying to be very aggressive and spend it down this year, but we received more state security grant money And so the maintenance department and security and Dr. Deuce's department, they had to shift to spend the state money because you had to spend that down by the end of this year. So we stopped working on the federal and we'll pick that up next year. So I'm just recognizing that there's gonna be closer to 155 or 185,000. I only thought there was gonna be 30 left. So I went up some more to make sure that we don't have to do another supplemental appropriation in the middle of the year. And that balances out our operating fund. Just to give you an idea, of things that I watched during the year. Concerns, but we're passing a budget based on information we have now. Everybody knows inflation. What's that gonna hit and what pressures is that gonna put on us? Fuel price, we're locked in until next January, but what comes after January, I don't know. So hopefully it comes down and we have some savings. The higher fuel prices might have an impact on our electrical line item. Did not go up on that, but we're gaining efficiency on electrical because of the new systems we're putting in. So that might just be a wash if there's upward tick on electrical, so we'll have to watch that next year. Our ADM will keep the board updated on what our membership is at the very beginning of the year, because that's one of the biggest factors on the revenue side, and also the state sales tax. Their forecast is for quite a bit of money there, so when the sales tax doesn't come in, we don't receive the money unless they do a supplemental caboose bill to the budget at the end of the year. So if the sales tax falls off, I'll let the board know. I won't know if I'm getting that money until about whenever they pass their budget, which this year would have been June, which is kind of scary. So, but this year it was up and they're projecting it being, for it to be up next year. So I just give that to the board of things that I watch, and I'll keep the board abreast of as we do quarterly forecasts and we go through the year next year. That's the operating budget. Any questions or comments or things I can address?
I have questions, but does anybody else want to go first, or is it just gonna be me? Okay. I didn't know how you wanted to entertain questions, so, back up to the Medicaid reimbursement.
Yep.
Are there any restrictions on that? Does it have to go back into a certain fund?
It does not. It's actually activities we're already doing. We just have to put the documentation and show the services that we're providing, and we're able to draw down some Medicaid money. So that's why you're not seeing an $300,000 on the expense side. It just goes to offset expenses we've already been incurring.
Okay.
So I don't have to go up on the expense side.
Okay. Let's see. There was mention that we're gonna be adding paraprofessionals. How many?
Not adding professionals.
Not adding?
No,
Just increasing the step,
we're restoring anybody that was frozen,
okay.
that did not receive a step during
Okay, I
during the
understand
recession.
The central office staff, reduction of 1 central office staff. No one is losing, I just want confirmation, no one is losing their
No one
job.
will lose their
This is just gonna be a position that will be.
They'll be shifting around and
Shifting. Okay.
wait for all that to come out, but part of what the board is also approving tonight, there's no changes in that, but it was in the original binder that I put. All the health cost for premiums, the salary scales that were presented, and also the staffing standards. All those feed into the budget. By passing the budget, all those are the metrics that flow in. The board is adopting those at the same time, so.
Okay, and just for confirmation for everyone watching too, no
Yep.
positions, no one will be losing their, everything.
No one will be losing their job, and just the total FTE count change year over year, it's about 12 3/4 decrease in total FTE count overall for the division. Reduced membership and some other moves, so almost 13 positions less than we had this year,
But that can also be attributed to declining enrollment too.
primarily. And if there's an uptick in enrollment, we will get more money from the state. We will hire over the summer, so we'll be watching the numbers as soon as we roll the numbers in our system, and adding in teachers where we see necessary and where we see pressure. So we watch that pretty closely.
Let's see, excuse me. For the security grant.
Yes.
Do we have anything set aside that we're gonna use the money for?
I'll defer to Dr. Deuce on that, because he's overseeing that one.
Yes, the federal grant that is listed here has been written and approved and is largely covering access control badge access control to replace keying systems. It's just more controllable electronically. Some intercom replacement and a few other equipment issues. Those are the largest couple buckets. We will apply again August 1st for a state security equipment grant, and Mr. Simmons is in the process of working with each principal to assess needs, reviewing end of the year documents, and looking at projects that we were not able to finish with either grant this past year to put in for that as well. So, and that will likely include also more access control, perhaps. We'll be looking at other intercom systems, so have redundant communication capabilities and some other practices. We'll give a really full, thorough update on that at the August board meeting as we get ready for school to make sure that we lay out as much as we can.
In my mind, just kind of wondered, we are actively going after security grants. We're applying for them, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. And my last one for now. Just confirmation, we're not using heating oil in any of the buildings anymore that we would have to worry about with gas. Basically, all of our gas prices are associated with transportation.
I think we do still have some heating oil and we use propane also. So, propane is we use quite a bit of that with some of the newer systems.
Mhm.
And I still believe we still have some heating oil in some locations. I'm just not 100% sure.
We do. That was part of the bid price for at the same time as the fuel price. So
Okay, but we're looking at potential major hikes on that next go-round.
next January, we'll have to look at that again. Yes,
Or
ma'am.
hopefully,
Don't want to think about it, but
hopefully reductions.
yeah, that would be wonderful, but okay.
Just transportation, fuel,
You have a question?
well over 300,000 gallons a year. Purchasing probably around 100. It's going down because more switching over to propane, but I'd say about 125,000 gallons of heating fuel. And then propane, don't know how many gallons, but we're just, I keep track of that and I do some averaging so I can build in adjustments to the budget each year based upon our purchasing.
Ms. Harrison?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Hagler, the reduction of the one central office staff position, are we looking at just taking the duties and responsibilities of that individual and spreading them out to others?
You want me to answer this one? I got it. Actually, in the staffing standards that, that are part of this, we recognize that there were pressures on two of our middle schools. Not Forest Middle, but Santa River Middle and Liberty Middle. And so in the staffing standards is an adjustment to give them an assistant principal to really help out in those schools. One of the central office lead teachers was assigned out to Liberty Middle this year to help out with an assignment of an assistant principal. We didn't think that lead was needed there anymore, so that's the reduction. So really, a full-time assistant principal is being assigned out to those two schools, but a reduction in a lead teacher that was assigned out there for just this year. So there's no duties that have to really be redistributed.
Gotcha. Yeah, so we're just creating two administrative positions.
That was in the staffing standards.
Mm-hmm. And what schools again?
Liberty Middle, Santa River.
I do have another question in terms of staffing, or actually student numbers, class sizes, just those standards. How are we looking? I know earlier in the year I talked about and asked the question regarding our class sizes that we would avoid as much as possible. Well, we would avoid completely combination classes. Are we still upholding that?
We're in a position where we can uphold that because we have CARES Act funding, COVID money, that if there's any of those predicaments, we can actually apply some of the federal money we have till the end of 2024. So we can make sure that doesn't happen this year, and also in 24. Beyond that, we'll have to look at the staffing standards and see what's pressure if we don't have that federal money available anymore. So I'd say for the next 2 years, that will not happen for sure. Beyond that, we'll have to look at the staffing standards and where that pressure is and how we can fix the staffing standard to make sure that doesn't happen and what's the cost of that.
Wonderful, thank you.
Anyone else?
I do have one question about the security grant.
Yes, sir.
Is there any stipulations on what can be purchased with that grant? And if so, is that something you can share with the board members, like, in a memo? Just, because we've been approached with some ideas on like
Yeah,
holistic stuff.
the grant, when it was written back in 20, we had to apply for, this is where we wanted to spend the money. Doesn't mean you can't ask to say, we want to shift and put it somewhere else, which,
Right, the new grants going forward, like the state security equipment grant, has a list of the types of equipment that will be approved. And that has been expanded over the last couple of years as it has the amount of money you can apply for.
Gotcha.
So if there are specific ideas that you or community members, members of the
And
school
I'll share
community
those
think,
with you.
please do, because this is the time in the next month that we'll really be pulling all that together
Okay.
to apply.
and that's the state one, we'll look to see if the federal grant, there's another, it's called a COPS grant, which we went after. If that's available, we'll go after it. And so, yeah, those ideas will be welcome, and so we can write that a grant. And hopefully get a winning application on that.
I'm gonna ask one more, just because I'm sure everybody that's watching is chomping at the bit. Pending our approval tonight, when will the teachers get their contracts?
They are actually loaded up in our talent ed system, ready to go. I think we have a time set that like midnight or early in the morning, they'll start generating, going out. They should get their contracts tomorrow, all employees. Takes the system a while to generate and get those things,
Yeah, it doesn't all go out at once. It takes.
but everybody should get them by sometime tomorrow.
Okay.
Yep, they're ready to go. We took a gamble. It was good news, so, I would like to talk about the maintenance fund real quick.
Okay.
I think the facility committee already is aware of this, but on top of all of that, we got accomplished in the operating fund also, there was $3,350,000, $3,350,956 for our maintenance fund given to us. It's one-time money coming into our maintenance fund, this year. And it can be carried over, so you basically have till 23, 24, and 25 to spend that money down. So that was a very nice surprise from the state, so it goes down to zero the next year, but we'll take it, and that can be spent on quite a few different projects. Unlike the COVID money has to be for air quality on HVACs, this can be spent on quite a few different things. And so I think Dr. Dewis met with the facility committee, so there'll be update in the future, maybe what projects get shifted around and stuff like that. But just want to let you know, I did adjust our budget to put that in there for next year.
What it is, a timeline on it?
You have to, I think, to 25 to do it. Yeah, Dr. Bergen asked me to check on that and look up the language, and it can be carried over to 24 and 25. Don't have to rush out and spend it right this second.
Yeah, that's right.
When prices are high. So those are the changes. Textbook and nutrition stay the same. And if the board is in agreement with that, I would say, if you look at the revenue, this is the revenue sheet. If you reference that, if you're gonna make a motion tonight, reference that. And I would reference each fund, operating, maintenance, textbook, school nutrition, and then overall budget number, and for the record. I will have to go to the Board of Supervisors with the amendments. I work with Ashley Anderson, so I'll have to go over there because the budget they passed was the one you passed back in March. So this is different, and so I'll have to go over there. I don't foresee any problems with that. But I'll take care of that as soon as I can in July.
No more questions? Do I have a motion regarding the revised fiscal year 2023 budget?
Madam Chair, I make a motion, I got that look. Make a motion that we approve the total operating fund of, I'm supposed to read each number, is that right?
Yes, if you can.
$115,387,790. The total school maintenance projects of $16,890,153. Total textbook fund of $870,171. Total nutrition fund of $4,899,777, for a grand total of the 2022-2023 budget of $138,047,891.
I have a motion by Mr. Hill. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Hairston. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Wow. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Hill. Do I have a second? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned.